It's Abdul. Welcome to this video on your mental. Now, a lot of people don't appreciate or understand just how important a positive mental can have on your exam. Honestly, it's probably one of the most important factors. We emphasized a lot on the previous videos on the importance of UWorld maxing, the importance of a very good review methodology, and a lot of these factors which are important, but mental is one thing that can absolutely destroy you come exam day or really make you outperform every single MBME you've done previously. A lot of people don't understand that coming in fresh to an exam is so important. There's a lot of variation when it comes to Step 2. I think back in the olden days when Step 1 was pass and fail, I read this very interesting study where they went and created an AI model that kind of could solve steps, and they unlocked a certain percentage of the total knowledge. So let's say they enabled 70% of Step 2 knowledge and made it sit the same exam repeatedly, and there was a variation. Now, a lot of it comes down to luck, right? You may get a form that's more suited to you and has less of your weaknesses, and therefore you would perform higher and vice versa. But also, going to the exam fresh with a positive mindset will allow you to make the most out of your performance compared to going into the exam super duper burnt out. Now, one first thing I want to discuss is the importance of belief. 270 plus is achievable. There's a lot of naysayers who love to say, oh, it's not possible, it's only the very smartest people can do it. But I genuinely disagree. I do think it is a very attainable score. It just requires a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication, but it's not something that's crazy. Me personally, I had a normal life. I didn't isolate from society. I genuinely cannot do that. I'm not like a super nerdy guy. I want to do ortho, okay? That should say enough. But I still managed to get that score, and I think a huge amount of that was keeping a positive attitude each and every single day and genuinely believing that I could get a 270. And between me and you, I was not aiming for a 270. Actually, I was aiming for a 280. But unfortunately, I did not get that, so we're happy with what we get. So really, I do want to emphasize the importance of believing that you can do it. It will define your ability to do it. Another important, I think, aspect of your mental is going to be the importance of a growth mindset. Mistakes are not an opportunity. Mistakes are an opportunity. They're not a boo-boo-diddy. What I mean by that is when you make a mistake, you should be happy that you're making this mistake now and not come exam day. You should look at every mistake as an opportunity for you to get better, to get stronger, and to allow your brain to go to hypertrophy. I know technically that's not biologically feasible, but like for a metaphorical sense, make the brain get some abs. Now, whenever I tell people I have a 270, obviously they all assume I'm this like super smart guy, and everyone who knows me in person probably knows that's not the case. But just to prove that to a lot of people, I had this folder on my computer, both for Step 1 and for Step 2. It's called Suffering with Success. Sounds a bit cocky, but I created it way before I sat my exam because I was like, hey, I have a feeling I'm probably going to get a good score, so I want to show to people that the process of studying is not always the most glamorous thing. So this folder is basically a folder of all my blunders, and it goes on and on and on. What I mean by this, and because I keep getting a lot of a lot of students who are like very worried about how their UWorld performance is and how the percentages they're not getting is the best, this is an example of a UWorld performance for a 270 plus scorer. Yes, it looks bad. And really, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I used to mess up all the time. I messed up in UWorlds. I messed up in MBMEs. I messed up in CMS forms. I messed up a lot. But it was great because I messed up during practice and not during the final exam. And that's why whenever I would get a ridiculously bad score, I would just laugh it off, screenshot it, and move on with my life. I did not let that define me. So with that kind of approach and with that kind of mindset, with a lot of belief, and having that positive attitude towards mistakes, all you gotta do is lock in and get better with each and every question you do. Another very crucial aspect and a topic that I really want to cover is burnout. Burnout is one of the very worst things that can happen to you in your Step 2 journey. And I do think you should avoid burnout like the plague. It is one of the big nightmare monsters that you do not want to deal with. And it could really hinder your performance, especially if you get burnt out right before your exam. And a lot of people ask me like, hey, how do I avoid burnout? Obviously, this is a huge topic, but I'm just going to say it sounds a bit mean, but just like literally touch grass. Maintain your hobbies. Don't isolate from society and just like grind out. Go out with your friends, maintain your social life, maintain your hobbies. If you like to game, just keep on gaming. If you like to watch sports or watch movies or watch whatever, maintain that normalcy of life. Don't let step 2 become everything. That is one of the worst mistakes you can do. And that's exactly what happened during my step 2 journey. I went and got married a few weeks before my exam. I did not let the fact that I was doing one of the most important exams of my life stop me from enjoying life and having a great time. And on that same note, also, don't be afraid to take a break. The lost gains from a few days break are minor compared to the absolute devastation that can happen if you get burnt out. A lot of people feel too guilty to take a break, especially as they approach the exam. But honestly, the impact of taking 2-3 days off to relax and reboot is huge. I personally did that. I remember once I got a bad MBME, I was kind of on the border of getting burnt out. So I was like, you know what? I'm taking a break. Didn't study for a few days. I just relaxed and then went right back into it after. And I do think that was one of the best decisions I made in my own personal step 2 journey. And again, like also some other tips. This is just like rehashed from a previous slide. Is to also approach your world as a learning resource and not an assessment tool. Don't be scared of getting things wrong and try to always be mindful, always actively think of what you do. Don't let studying be a very passive thing. Make it mindful. It will serve you so much better in the long term. And finally, try to have fun. I know studying for Step 2 is probably not the most typical example of having fun, but try to romanticize the process, and you'll only do it once, and it's going to be one of those things that you would look at with like some degree of fun. I do remember grinding out in various cafes, trying to figure out which one will allow me to grind the most, and just downing cup after cup of coffee. And I kind of sometimes miss those days, and you may chalk it to a bit of Stockholm syndrome. I'm not blaming you wrong, but do try to romanticize the process. Try to study with your friends if you can. Go out and make it more of a social thing. Don't really just like live in a hole the entire Step 2 journey. And honestly, that's it for your mental. I really hope that you guys have a very good and healthy mindset when you approach Step 2. And I will see you in the next and sadly final episode in this playlist. See you then.